Hi, hey, how are you? It's been a while. I'm back again, and I want to talk about meditation and what that means to me, how I see it, what it can mean for you, and why everyone should do it. That it's an essential life skill, and you shouldn't sleep on it. It could really benefit you in all aspects of your life. And I'll talk about what it is, why do it, and how to do it in the simplest terms that I can muster at this moment. I think that framing your mind as to what meditation can be can make it easier and more feasible for you to find application for it in your everyday life, find time for it, make time for it. If you can see it more like a harnessing of energy by meaningfully, consciously directing your attention where you want it to go with intention. It's sort of bringing your consciousness to the focal point of right here, right now, actively. It is an action. We can get into the nuances of what meditation is. Clearly, there's many forms and there's many schools of thought, with Zen, Buddhism, going within, all these concepts. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, people have kind of put it in an area of mystique and woo-woo, call it whatever. And it's become too daunting for them, and people believe that they can't do it, or they try and sit still and be calm, but their mind races too much, so they just cop it out as, I can't do that, that's just not something I can do. And I'll tell you right now, that's just a belief. That isn't absolutely true. You have to choose to believe that, and then of course not do it. And just like any skill, it requires practice. When you first get going with it, just like when you were a kid and you were first learning to write, you're going to come out with scribbles. It's not going to look very good. It requires time, energy, effort to some degree. And kind of as I was leading into, in some way of looking at it, it's actually effortlessness. So it takes a bit of effort to achieve non-effort, because in its purest form, you're not really doing anything. So it's like trying not to try to get into that state where no longer are you creating resistance for yourself by getting to a more natural state. But kind of coming back to how it's a harnessing of energy by directing your attention, when you think of how much throughout your day you're conscious of, there's a lot of thoughts rolling through your head that you're not necessarily meaning to think about. They're just happening on their own by habit, by that ingrained track that you've been working on day after day after day after day for years of your life, and that you see is going on in society, culture around you. A lot of the activity that you go through throughout the day is mostly unconscious, meaning you're not having a conscious decision over where you're placing your attention. And that's where meditation comes in, because by the pure act of doing that, you are now choosing where you put your attention, and that is giving you power. And it's centering, or kind of like coalescing your energy back to this kind of middle point. As I've said before, we call it going within. And so it's a mechanism, a feature that's built into consciousness, having a brain, having a body, having this mind. It's like learning how to operate the tool that you have. And in most cases, at least in Western culture, I wasn't taught by my teachers in school and all that how to use my mind. I had to figure that out on my own, as most of you do too. I was fortunate enough to be introduced to meditation and ideas like hypnosis by my dad early on to help curb and deal with ADHD. And now at first it was very difficult for me because, well, I was diagnosed with ADHD. My mind was everywhere. I was shooting around, constantly thinking about everything, daydreaming, and couldn't sit still. So it took a lot of years, I admit, to really begin to learn how to just be still and be in the moment. Now, after some 20 years of practicing meditation, I think about it in very basic, simple terms as a convergence of attention and awareness. So, and I've talked about this in some of my other videos. You think about the difference between awareness and attention as these two kind of primary aspects of having consciousness. Your awareness is like an expanse of attention. You can be aware of so many things that are going on, like the motion of my hand, or the way that my hair looks, or the room that I'm in, or the way that your shirt is sitting on your body, the way that your butt is positioned in the chair you're sitting in, or the breeze or the smell in the room. There's a lot of things to be aware of, but it doesn't mean that your attention is directly fixed on what that is. For instance, you could be driving in a car and you're aware of the feel of the car, the way the vibration in the wheel as you're holding it. You're aware of traffic stopped at this stoplight and going down your lane. You're aware of the guy next to you. Even though you're not directly looking at it, you have this peripheral awareness of what's going on. But it doesn't necessarily mean your attention, what that could be focused on. You could be having a conversation with somebody and thinking about the next thing that you're going to say. So your attention is very instantaneous, to the point. It's a focus, where your awareness is an expansion. So when you think of meditation as a convergence of the two, awareness with attention, then what occurs, the benefit that arises when you think of it like this, really all forms of meditation at the end of the day are going to be some form of converging awareness with attention, or in a sense kind of imbuing your attention with consciousness, or imbuing your awareness with consciousness, being consciously present with what's going on rather than just following along the track of habit, just unconsciously like on autopilot, or an ant just going through the day, not really thinking about what you're doing and just kind of letting it go. So this is kind of reclaiming control and being conscious, being consciously active with your time and your mind. So what it does, in a sense, what it does for you as a benefit to you is, by converging your attention with your awareness, is it brings greater clarity to your awareness, expands your awareness. When you sit still, you pay attention to everything, you listen to everything, you begin to hear more, you begin to feel more. Your sense of the world around you and the world within you grows. At the same time, your ability to focus enhances. You're developing your ability to focus on a singular thing, as it's kind of like expanding the aperture of what you could be aware of. So it is also granting greater clarity to that, and greater potency to your attention, as you are filling the moment that you're in with more conscious activity. So, there's, and really the sky's the limit. In all forms of what we're calling meditation here. And to be honest, if you look in the East, or like perhaps in like for instance Buddhist theology, there's several words for meditation, and I'm not a scholar in that field. I don't know all the different names, but they have a lot of different names for what we have one word for in the West. We just call it meditation. And there's a lot of different forms. That could mean a lot of things. You could be talking about focusing on the candle flame, or paying attention to everything, being mindful, right? Filling the mind with consciousness. There again, in that word. Awareness meditation. And you got your focus meditation. You got yoga. And yoga is more of like a full body involvement, where you're getting your entire body involved with the activity. You've seen, of course, everyone does the mudras. You've seen that. That's also applying more of yourself to the activity of focusing your attention or your energy. But it doesn't really matter what you do, but that you do it, that you make time to do it. And as far as how you do it, there's as many ways to do it as there are people. And you'll find, as if you think about it more in terms of, again, gaining control of your attention, being consciously evolved with your mind, and where what's going on in your awareness, you will find that you have a lot of ways of doing it already. For instance, some people do it when they go outside. They're able to clear their mind and bear witness to the beauty of nature. A sunset, the clouds passing through the sky, the breeze through the leaves of the trees, and it's freeing. It's liberating. You're able to set things down, the concerns of the day, the things you've been worrying about, your anxieties and all these things. And that's just, again, it's you coming back into nature, into your natural state of being. Meaning what's unnatural is all the incessant thinking and anxious worry and concern over mental constructs that we are constantly bombarded with throughout the day, especially in the stressful world of commerce and society and media and everything that's going on in the world. But where that takes residence, where all those stresses take residence, is in your mind. And the trap of it is that we get stuck in there and we're no longer consciously evolved with what's going on in here. And again, meditation, what that does is frees you from that. It creates a space between what you could call your consciousness, your spirit, or your soul, and the mind. So no longer is everything that's going on, what's going on in your mind, or what's at the forefront of your mind. You can begin to recognize by creating a separation or a space between you and your mind. And you can see, oh, that's my mind over there, and it's doing its thing. And you begin to have a greater awareness of what your mind's doing all the time. We can call it thinking about thoughts, or being aware of your thoughts, rather than being the thoughts, being caught up in the drama of what's arising. And that you actually have a choice as to what you think about, what you want to think about, or what you want to feel, or how you want to be. And that kind of sets up your state of mind, or your sense of being, your mood, in a lot of ways. All of that really has to do with the kind of mental landscape that you've been building up for yourself by incessantly thinking, that self-talk. So kind of back to how it's done, or how you can do it. I think the simplest way for anyone, advanced or getting right into it at any given time, the most basic way, as far as I'm concerned, is the breath. It's right there all the time with you. And the funny thing about breath is, and it also kind of lends to the point of how, half the time you're conscious, the other half you're not. Well, it's the same with your breath. Whether you're conscious of it or not, you're going to breathe. So it's interesting that way. I believe Alan Watts puts it in a beautiful way, that you can choose to be conscious of it or be unconscious of it, and there's a kind of a balance there, kind of a harmony between consciousness and unconsciousness with your breath. But when you're conscious of it, again, it's It's quite literally bringing your attention, your energy, back to the middle of your being, right here in your chest, in your diaphragm, your belly, in your nostrils, at the center of your being, quite literally. And it's pulling all this distracted, diverted energy off of your thoughts, off of that, off of tomorrow, off of yesterday, off of all these concerns. It's pulling all that energy back in and harnessing it and bringing all that back into balance. As I said, a mechanism for harmony, or a tuning, if you will. So just quite simply, being consciously attentive of the breath is meditation. And it reduces stress, it calms the mind, it helps you think clearly, and it's always available to you, whether you're at work or standing in line at the grocery store or in a room by yourself in the quiet. It can be done anywhere at any time. Of course, that expands out to many different things you can do, from sitting in the lotus position and holding your hands in mudras to doing yoga, or balancing on one leg and focusing on staying balanced. And that in itself creates an equilibrium between your mind and your body and your consciousness, and all these things together. You could listen to music and not just think about it and editorialize it and think about necessarily the words. Maybe just get into more of an instrumental, to where the words aren't incurring thought as much, because the idea is that you're not going into thought ultimately. If you're just thinking, what's happening is it's dividing up your attention to all, or diverting it into all these different scenarios and scenes and ideas and language. And it's dispersing the energy, you see? So in that sense, meditation is converging or harnessing or bringing that energy together. Like we say, undivided attention. That's focus, right? That's unifying your attention, rather than diverting it out or cutting it up or chopping it up into all these different little pieces, that's where anxiety blossoms. That's where stresses blossom, is in that field of thought. Where peace exists and resides is in the unification of that energy, in the convergence of your attention and your awareness. So I might have kind of rambled on there. Thanks for sticking around and listening to this. I hope it might have offered some different way of thinking about meditation, what it can do for you. Anyone can do it, absolutely. If you think you can't do it because you sat down and you were thinking too much, remember that it's a skill. It takes practice just like anything else. And be easy on yourself. Do a little bit at a time. It only takes a few, even seconds throughout the day of just remembering that, I don't have to think about this. I don't have to be stressed out about all these things or get all this work done or whatever it is. You can at any time choose to breathe in, breathe out, and hold your attention to the whole measure of going all the way in and all the way out. And you bring a greater quality of your being, your presence, to each and every moment throughout the day. So it lends itself to literally every aspect of your life, and it can benefit you and everyone, bringing greater clarity, which means less unconscious, incidental, accidental activity. You're no longer a slave to the mind. What you're doing is becoming a master of it by doing that. And it's really something everyone should do. It should be taught in schools. It should be taught everywhere. It has nothing to do with a religion or spirituality. Spirituality is the eventual essence core of where we're all going in that way. But it's really just a mechanism, a function of having consciousness. And if we can figure out and understand how to use that, we'll use our tool, our mind, better, and with greater clarity, with greater precision, with greater focus and alacrity and articulation. it's all of these things can become easier on us. We can make our lives easier by just taking this simple skill and sticking it into different parts of the day. When you go to the bathroom, when you sit down to eat, before you go to bed, when you wake up, it doesn't have to be this daunting, quest into the mountains like a monk or something like that. It's available for everyone and anyone that has consciousness. So appreciate you for sticking through all my rambling. More coming, more videos coming. Thank you.